Most people saw the scarred knuckles, the faded leather vest, and the chrome Harley idling in the parking lot, and kept their distance. They saw danger. They saw trouble. They saw someone to cross the street to avoid. But on a cold November evening at Lucky's Diner, just outside Bakersfield, California, Marcus Steele, Garrett saw something that would crack open a truth no one in that quiet desert town was ready to face. And it started when a hungry little boy sitting alone in a corner booth did something that made absolutely no sense. The boy ordered the cheapest meal on the menu, stared at it like he hadn't eaten in days, then quietly asked the waitress to pack it all in a to-go box without touching a single bite. What happened next would lead Marcus down a dark road where secrets hid behind locked doors, and where the most dangerous men in the room weren't the ones wearing patches, they were the ones wearing ties. The diner smelled like burnt coffee and frying bacon, the kind of place where truckers stopped for fuel and locals came because everywhere else had closed years ago. Marcus sat in his usual spot near the window, back to the wall, watching the highway stretch into darkness while rain drummed against the glass. He was a massive man, 6 feet 4 inches, shoulders like a linebacker, beard streaked with gray that told the story of too many miles ridden through wind and cold. The Iron Reaper's patch on his back meant most folks gave him space, which was fine by him. He'd ridden up from San Diego that morning, heading north toward Reno for a club meeting, and had stopped only because his tank was near empty and his patience thinner. The diner was nearly dead. A couple of truckers hunched over eggs at the counter. A waitress named Donna refilling sugar dispensers with the tired efficiency of someone who'd worked too many doubles. Then the door chimed. A kid walked in alone. Marcus noticed him immediately, not because of noise, but because of the quiet. The boy couldn't have been more than 9 or 10, small for his age, wearing a jacket 2 sizes too big and sneakers held together with duct tape. His hair was uncombed, his face smudged with dirt, and he moved carefully, like someone used to not being noticed. He slid into a booth near the back, clutching a crumpled $5 bill in both hands. Donna approached with a menu, but the boy shook his head. "Just the soup, please," he said quietly. "The smallest one." She nodded and walked away. The boy sat perfectly still, hands folded on the table, staring at the salt shaker like it was the most interesting thing in the world. Marcus went back to his coffee, but something about the kid nagged at him. The careful way he sat, the way his eyes darted toward the door every few seconds like he was expecting someone. When the soup arrived, a plain bowl of chicken broth with crackers, the boy stared at it for a long moment. His throat worked like he was swallowing hard. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for the spoon. Then he stopped. He set the spoon down, untouched, and looked up at Donna. "Can I get this in a to-go box instead?" Donna blinked. "You haven't eaten any of it, honey." "I know," the boy said softly. "But I need it to go." She hesitated, confused, then shrugged and brought him a styrofoam container. The boy carefully transferred the soup, sealed the lid, and clutched the box against his chest like it was made of gold. He left exact change on the table, no tip, because there wasn't enough, and walked quickly toward the door. And that's when Marcus made a decision he couldn't explain. He stood, dropped the 20 on his table, and followed. Outside, the rain had softened to a drizzle. The boy was already halfway across the parking lot, moving fast despite his size, the soup box tucked under his jacket to keep it warm. Marcus climbed onto his bike, but didn't start the engine. He waited. The boy didn't head toward the main road. Instead, he cut through the back lot toward a line of old storage units behind a chain-link fence, the kind of place that had been abandoned. So long the rust had rust. Marcus's gut tightened. He waited until the boy disappeared through a gap in the fence, then quietly rolled his bike forward, boots crunching gravel. Through the fence, he saw the boy slip into one of the units, a rusted metal box with a sagging door that barely closed. Marcus dismounted silently and moved closer. That's when he heard it, a small voice from inside the unit. Weak, frightened. "Did you bring food?" The boy's reply was barely a whisper. "I got soup. It's still warm." Marcus stepped closer to the gap in the door, and what he saw inside that cold, dark storage unit made his blood run ice cold. 2 younger children, a girl maybe 6, a boy no older than 4, huddled together on a filthy blanket, shivering in clothes that hadn't been washed in weeks. The older boy was kneeling beside them, carefully opening the soup container, tearing the crackers into small pieces. "We have to make it last," he whispered. I don't know when I can get more. Marcus stood frozen, his breath caught somewhere between rage and heartbreak. Because he'd just found 3 children living alone in an abandoned storage unit. And someone, somewhere, had decided that was acceptable. Marcus didn't move for a long moment, his mind trying to reconcile what his eyes were showing him. 3 kids. Alone. In a storage unit that smelled like rust and mildew, with nothing but a thin blanket and a shared bowl of soup between them in the cold November night. The older boy was dividing the crackers with surgical precision, breaking each one into halves, then quarters, making sure the younger 2 got equal portions. The little girl, her hair matted, her face smudged, took her piece and ate it slowly, like she'd learned to make food last. The smallest boy coughed wetly, and the older one immediately pulled the blanket tighter around him. Eat slow, the older boy whispered. It'll feel like more. That's when Marcus cleared his throat. All 3 children froze. The older boy's head snapped toward the door, his body immediately shifting in front of the younger 2. Arms spread protectively despite the fact that he weighed maybe 70 pounds soaking wet. It's okay, Marcus said quietly, crouching low so he didn't tower over them. I'm not here to hurt you. The boy didn't move. His eyes were sharp, wary, old in a way no child should be. You followed me, the boy said flatly. I did. Why? Marcus considered lying, softening it. But something told him this kid had heard enough lies. Because something didn't sit right. A boy orders food and doesn't eat it. That tells a story. The older boy's jaw tightened. We're fine. We don't need help. Kid, you're living in a storage unit. We have a place. That's more than some people. Marcus exhaled slowly. He'd seen pride before. Hell, he'd worn it like armor most of his life. But this was different. This was survival dressed up as dignity. What's your name? Marcus asked. The boy hesitated. Carter. Carter, I'm Marcus. And I'm guessing you've got a reason you're out here instead of inside somewhere warm. Carter's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Fear, maybe. Or exhaustion. Our mom's gone, he said quietly. She didn't come back. Marcus felt his chest tighten. How long? 3 weeks. Maybe more. And your dad? Never met him. The little girl tugged on Carter's sleeve. I'm cold, she whispered. Carter pulled her close. I know, Emma. We'll be okay. Marcus glanced around the unit. No heater. No running water. A plastic jug in the corner that looked like it had been refilled from a gas station bathroom. A grocery bag with a few cans of soup and a half loaf of bread. Anyone know you're out here? Marcus asked. Carter shook his head quickly. And you can't tell anyone. Kid. If you tell, they'll split us up. Carter's voice cracked slightly. They'll put us in different homes. I promised Emma and Jack I'd keep us together. Marcus understood immediately. Foster care. The system. The same system that had chewed Marcus up and spit him out when he was 14, bouncing him between houses that didn't want him until he aged out and found family in a motorcycle club instead. How have you been getting food? Marcus asked. I do odd jobs. Sweep 4s at the gas station. Sometimes people give me cash. Carter glanced at the soup. I try to get something every other day. We share. Every other day. Marcus stood slowly, his mind already working through what needed to happen next. But he knew better than to rush. Kids like Carter had been let down before. Trust wasn't given, it was earned. Carter, I'm not calling anyone tonight, Marcus said carefully. But I am going to help. And you're going to let me. We don't take charity. Not charity. A deal. Marcus pulled out his wallet and held up 2 20s. You let me bring you 3 hot meals tomorrow. Real ones, not soup. And in exchange, you let me check on you for a few days. Just to make sure you're safe. That's it. Carter stared at the bills like they might vanish. Why would you do that? He asked quietly. Marcus crouched again, meeting the boy's eyes. Because a long time ago, I was a kid who didn't have anyone either. And I remember what that felt like. 4. The first time, Carter's guard cracked. Just slightly. 3 days, he said. Then you leave us alone. 3 days, Marcus agreed. He handed Carter the cash and stood. Before he left, he pulled off his leather jacket and draped it over the younger 2 kids. It swallowed them completely, but it was warm. I'll be back tomorrow. 6 o'clock. Be here. Carter nodded once. Marcus walked back to his bike, his hands shaking with an anger he hadn't felt in years. Not at the kids. At the world that had put them there. He sat on his Harley for a long moment, staring at the storage unit, then pulled out his phone and made a call. Grave, a voice answered. It's late. I need the club, Marcus said quietly. All of them. Tomorrow. What's going on? Marcus looked back at the rusted door. I just found something that's going to require more than just me. And by tomorrow night, the Iron Reapers would make sure these kids never spent another night in the cold. By 6 o'clock the next evening, the parking lot behind Lucky's Diner looked less like a truck stop and more like a rolling fortress. 18 motorcycles lined up in tight formation, engines ticking as they cooled, chrome gleaming under the dim overhead lights. The Iron Reapers had come in full force, not with aggression, but with purpose. Marcus stood near the fence, arms crossed, watching as Carter emerged cautiously from the storage unit, his eyes widening at the sight of the bikers unloading bags of food, blankets, propane heaters, and boxes of clothes from their saddlebags and a trailing van. You said you were coming alone, Carter said, his voice tight with suspicion. I said I'd help, Marcus replied calmly. Didn't say how. One of the Reapers, a woman named Diane Hawk Torres with steel gray hair and a no-nonsense expression, stepped forward holding a large duffel bag. She knelt to Carter's level. Your brother and sister still inside? She asked gently. Carter nodded slowly. Good. Because we brought enough food to last a month and coats that'll actually fit them. She glanced at Marcus. Steel doesn't do anything halfway. Within 20 minutes, the storage unit had been transformed. 2 portable heaters hummed quietly in the corners. The younger kids, Emma and Jack, sat wrapped in new blankets, eating hot sandwiches while one of the Reapers, a former medic named Luis, checked Jack's persistent cough with a stethoscope. Upper respiratory infection, Luis said quietly to Marcus. Nothing serious yet, but he needs antibiotics. And a real bed. Carter overheard and stiffened. We're not going to a hospital. They'll ask questions. Marcus crouched beside him. Carter, listen to me. We're not splitting you up. But this, he gestured around the unit. This isn't sustainable. You know that. Then what do we do? Carter's voice cracked. Where do we go? Diane stepped forward. My place. I've got a house with 3 bedrooms gathering dust. Used to foster kids before I retired. It's yours as long as you need it. Carter stared at her, disbelief and hope warring on his face. You don't even know us. Don't need to, Diane said simply. You kept your family together when the world tried to break you apart. That tells me everything. But Marcus held up a hand. Before we move them, we need to make sure this is legal. I'm not letting some bureaucrat show up in 3 days and rip these kids out of a safe home. One of the Reapers, a man named Tom who worked as a paralegal, stepped forward. I already made some calls. Carter's mother, Angela Wade. She's been missing for 4 weeks. No police report filed. No next of kin listed. Technically, these kids fell through the cracks. So what do we do? Marcus asked. We file for emergency guardianship through the state. Diane's already a licensed foster parent. If we move fast, we can have temporary custody approved within 72 hours. Tom looked at Carter. But we'll need your cooperation. That means social workers. Questions. Paperwork. Carter looked at Emma and Jack, then back at Marcus. And we stay together? That's the deal, Marcus said firmly. Carter's shoulders sagged, the weight he'd been carrying finally too heavy to hold alone. Okay. The next 72 hours moved like a blur. Diane's house became a safe haven. Emma and Jack slept in real beds for the first time in weeks. Carter, though still wary, slowly began to relax as hot meals and warm showers became routine instead of luxury. Luis got Jack the antibiotics he needed. Diane enrolled Emma in school. And Marcus stayed close, checking in every evening, making sure Carter knew he wasn't alone. On the 3rd day, the social worker arrived. A tired woman named Ms. Brennan who'd seen too many hard cases. She interviewed the kids separately, inspected the house, reviewed Diane's background. When she finally sat down with Marcus and Diane, her expression was unreadable. You understand, she said slowly, that what you've done is highly irregular. We understand, Diane said calmly. MS. Brennan tapped her pen against her clipboard. Then, to Marcus's surprise, she smiled faintly. It's also the best thing that could have happened to these kids. Emergency guardianship is approved. Diane, they're yours temporarily. We'll revisit permanency in 6 months. Marcus exhaled a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. That night, the Reapers gathered at Diane's house for what they called a family meeting, which was really just an excuse to grill burgers, and make sure the kids knew they had a whole community behind them now. Carter sat on the porch steps beside Marcus, watching Emma and Jack chase fireflies in the yard, their laughter bright and unguarded. "You didn't have to do all this," Carter said quietly. "Yeah, I did," Marcus replied. "Because nobody should have to survive alone. Not at your age. Not at any age." Carter was silent for a moment. Then he asked, "What happens when you leave?" Marcus looked at him. "I'm not going anywhere. You're part of the family now. That's how this works." Carter's eyes glistened, but he didn't look away. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Marcus said with a faint smile. "Wait till Diane makes you do chores." Carter laughed, a real, genuine sound. And for the first time in weeks, he looked like what he was, a kid. Months later, the guardianship became permanent. Diane officially adopted all three. Carter started high school and joined the robotics team. Emma made friends. Jack's cough disappeared. And every Sunday, the Iron Reapers rolled up to Diane's house for dinner, their engines rumbling like thunder, their presence a reminder that family wasn't just blood, it was the people who showed up when the world walked away. Marcus never forgot the night he followed a hungry boy into the dark. Because sometimes the most important rides aren't the long ones across state lines. Sometimes they're the short ones that lead you exactly where you're needed most. And sometimes, all it takes to save a life is refusing to look away when a kid orders soup he won't eat and asking why.